say skill or be real. You'll never reap the benefits of talents if you're still on the real. Get rid of all that vanity grill. See success, it needs an insanity feel. Look at your...
When I started off in my industry, which is, I guess, journalism, entertainment journalism, my main dream was, I think, as a young girl from the age of about 14, I wanted to be a journalist and I wanted to be an entertainment journalist. So when I started off in the industry, I was lucky enough to kind of sort of hit the ground running pretty quickly. I started off doing work experience at a newspaper and kind of was thrown in at the deep end, right place at the right time. And that was my dream at the time, and it was quite amazing that, you know, just straight off the bat I was already sort of living it, so to speak. I was getting out there interviewing big celebrities and travelling the world and all that sort of thing. So that was my ultimate dream, getting into industry, and I was lucky enough to kind of walk, sort of my first sort of media job, sort of walk straight into it. So, you know, that was pretty amazing. I love writing. I loved, writing stories. I love reading. I was a bit of a bookworm. I was one of those kids that used to sit in the corner and just read. My mum used to be worried about it, be like, is she all right? Just kind of sit, but, you know, and I loved writing stories. And I was fascinated, not necessarily by celebrity, although I love my music and stuff, but I was very fascinated by people and just finding out about people and, you know, asking them questions and getting to know them and finding out things that maybe no one else knew. So that was kind of the thing that really sort of spurred me on in terms of doing the job that I did. And obviously celebrity is quite exciting, and interviewing famous people and finding out things about them that no one else knew was something that really I kind of got off on, to be honest with you. And I kind of, you know, when I did my interviews and I kind of got that extra nugget that I knew no one else had got, that used to be like a bit of a sort of challenge for me, I guess, going into an interview and finding out something that I knew no one else, no other journalist who had done an interview with that person would have got. And that was something that really kind of, that I really enjoyed and I really sort of, got a kick out of, to be honest. The thing I found most difficult, I think, is sometimes you have to I guess reinvent yourself, because I guess going into the industry and having the dream that I had, which was like a childhood dream, and I never thought that I'd get it so quickly. So what I found after that was I did it, and then it was almost like, well, sort of what's next? So I hadn't really thought that far ahead. I'd kind of thought, okay, it'll take me a while to get to, you know, being a celebrity journalist, and take me a while to get to interviewing, you know, some of the people that I did. You know, I was interviewing quite big celebrities, people like Mariah Carey, Kanye West, Will Smith, Denzel Washington, Destiny's Child. So it was, you know, it was a bit surreal, to be honest, but, you know, really good, and I really kind of threw myself into it. So I think the challenge was sort of reinventing myself in a way, because I kind of had achieved that, and I am quite ambitious, so I kind of wanted to kind of, you know, take the next step up and figure out, okay, so where do I go now? What's the next thing that's going to challenge me? What's the next thing that's going to keep me excited and, keep my career sort of moving? So that was a bit of a challenge, because sometimes you don't really know what that is, you know, because if I'm honest, I hadn't thought that far ahead, because I thought my initial dream would take me a while to get there. So it was kind of figuring out what direction I wanted to go into, what would sort of stimulate me as a person, because I'm very driven by that sort of thing, as opposed to, I know some people are driven by money, some people are driven by, you know, titles or whatever floats your boat. But for me, it's really about what challenges me, what stimulates me, what when I get up in the morning makes me just, you know, excited to kind of, you know, dive in there and, you know, just kind of get on with it. So that was the challenge, I think, yeah. Highlight of my career, I mean, you know, interviewing some of those people were definitely highlights. I think also figuring out sort of what I wanted to sort of move into next, and I kind of fell into it, which was sort of PR, because interviewing a lot of interesting people, you get to talk to people, and sometimes you find people they want to sort of move themselves forward. And because of my experience in the industry and obviously dealing with a lot of PRs and knowing what a journalist sort of, you know how to approach a journalist, because a lot of PRs were approaching me as a journalist, and I knew what sort of things worked, which things I was receptive to and which things I wasn't. So that kind of helped me. They always say that the best PR people are former journalists, because you kind of know both sides of the fence. I was able to use that. So I think one of the highlights was sort of figuring out, you know, that next step, because there was a period where I was quite confused about sort of where to move into next, and then sort of, you know, realizing that I was good at that, and that opening up a whole new sort of world to me as well, you know, and I realised I was good at sort of, you know, approaching people. I was good at sort of branding and that sort of thing, good at selling, you know, people, to, you know, even difficult sales sometimes. So that was quite a highlight. I mean, traveling, you know, to different places, interesting places has been a big highlight as well. Meeting sort of interesting people has been sort of highlights. So I've been lucky enough to have many highlights, and, you know, just to keep things moving. I think, like I said, you have to always be thinking of, you know, where you're going to move to next, how you're going to challenge yourself, how you're going to sort of make a difference. And I always try and do things as well that are a bit different. You know, sometimes you get a lot of people, you know, wanting to do things that other people are doing because that looks interesting, but I always like to do something. I like to be the different one, you know, do something that not everyone's doing, a bit different, and sort of, you know, build my own sort of thing and kind of take my own lane. So yeah, so I think my highlights have been quite plentiful, and I've been quite lucky in that respect. One of the main highlights of my career today has definitely been setting up my PR company, Coast to Coast Media. Set it up originally in 2006. I was doing it alongside my journalism, and over the years it's just progressed and just got, you know, it's got more and more, it's just moved forward more and more, and it's allowed me to kind of, you know, spend more time with it. So I'm hoping to sort of really open it up, you know, in the near future. In the past, I've worked with clients, Dineo, I've worked with actors, Adenike. My current client roster now includes Ameen, an actor, Nonzo Anozi, another actor. Both of them are in Hollywood at the moment, so I do promotions for them here and in the US, which has been a very interesting experience. I'm really excited with Coast to Coast Media and what the future holds. I've got so many great ideas, and I'm just looking to sort of take it and run with it, really. So, you know, I'm really proud that I've been able to achieve this, even though it wasn't an original dream, but it was something that along the way, you know, I decided to do, and I've sort of done it, and it's up and running now, and the sky's the limit, really. One thing that I've seen, because I've been around a lot of celebrities doing interviews and stuff like that, is the people who are really sort of right at the top, you know, come across as the most humble, funnily enough. And there's different levels of success, you know, and sometimes people who are not as successful as others tend to be a bit more, you know, of an ego, or, you know, a bit of which is a shame, but it says a lot then about, you know, the people who are really sort of successful. I've met some, you know, really interesting people, not to sort of name drop, but for example, one person that stands out to mind that was so humble and so down to earth was Samuel L. Jackson, such a lovely man, and just so, you know, and it sort of personified that whole thing. And as, you know, my career has gone on, I've noticed the same thing, that the people who are the most successful are always Mariah Carey. A lot of people said she was a diva. You know, I was kind of thinking, oh, what's she going to be like? She was just like, you know, my homegirl, like a girl from just around the way. She was really cool, really down to earth. So that's one thing I've sort of learned about the entertainment industry, which is refreshing, because you hear a lot of stories. I'm sure there are divas out there. Maybe I just haven't come across them. I'm sure there are, you know, big stars that are, but I've been lucky enough, bar one person who I won't mention, but, you know, I've been lucky enough to sort of meet some really interesting people. So, you know, so I guess, you know, the preconceptions that people have about famous people sometimes being a bit, you know, horrible, diva-ish, in my experience, the ones that I've met have been pretty nice, yeah. I think you need to have a plan. You know, I think that, I don't know if I necessarily did have a plan, but in hindsight, I think I did, but not a sort of like a structured one. And I think that anyone that I was talking to now who wanted to get into the industry, I would say have a plan. You might have a dream, but also have a plan as well. So you might start off at one place, you know, have a plan of, you know, where you want to get in that place, and then, you know, when you want to move forward. It's very important to keep moving in a way. Do you know what I mean? Especially when you start out, you know, not to stay at one place too long. You know, keep sort of, you know, moving, getting different experiences. Also, one thing I've learned is a lot of people want to sort of go off and do their own thing straight away, but it's always good to get experience within a structured organisation. So even if you're working for somebody, if you want to go off and do your own magazine, it's important for you to actually work in a magazine, because then you can see how it's done. Then you can make your mistakes there, or see how they make their mistakes, and then go on and do your, you know, and take that with you. So I think a lot of people want to start businesses and stuff. I think even for me, with my sort of PR company, Coast to Coast Media, I've learned a lot working in structured organisations or organisations that, have been bigger, and for me to go off and use that experience in what I'm doing. So, the mistakes that have been made there or the successes or whatever, there's a lot of things that I've learned, that I didn't know or I wouldn't have known. So I think it's very important to go into organisations. It could be small companies, it could be big companies, but just kind of get your groundings and find out and learn a bit, and then go off and sort of do your own thing if you want to.
Kill or be killed, I say skill or be real. You'll never reap the benefits of talents if you're still on the real. Get rid of all that vanity grill. See success, it needs an insanity feel. Look at your life, who decides? Yes, you make decisions, swallow your pride, scuba dive, jump into position, see the signs, just do it right. Course up in your mission, you and I, do or die for